It was just a text. That's how it started. A simple, harmless message. Are you still at the office? Followed by the kind of silence that doesn't belong to words, but to what they hide. I'd stayed late again. The agency was empty except for the hum of the copy machine and the faint whir of the city outside. I was new, still the one who fetched reports, fixed printers, and smiled too much at people who barely looked up. But she always noticed. Marianne, 45, maybe 46, the kind of woman whose presence doesn't just fill a room, it straightens it. Crisp voice, calm eyes, always a faint scent of something expensive and steady. The senior project manager. Everyone either wanted her approval or feared her correction. I wanted both. That night, her office door was half open, light spilling across the hallway. I was supposed to leave. I didn't. Instead, I typed back. Yes, just finishing up. The typing dots appeared, then stopped, then came back, then vanished again. When I finally looked up, she was standing at her doorway. You don't have to stay that late, she said, voice quiet, deliberate. I shrugged, pretending to focus on my laptop. Didn't want to leave things half done. Her heels clicked softly as she walked closer. That's what makes you dangerous, she said, glancing at my screen. You care too much about getting it right. I didn't know how to answer that, so I didn't. The air felt heavy, not with anything romantic, but something else. A kind of awareness that makes you straighten your back without meaning to. She leaned slightly against the edge of my desk, crossing her arms. The light from her office cast a faint halo around her hair. You're not like the others, she said after a pause. You actually listen. I just don't like talking over people. That's rare, she murmured, almost to herself. There was a long silence after that, the kind that doesn't feel awkward, just fragile. Her phone buzzed on her desk behind her, and I caught a flicker in her eyes, something tightening, then smoothing over. Go home, Daniel, she said finally, but it sounded less like an order and more like a question. I nodded, started packing my bag. She lingered a second longer, then turned back toward her office. But before the door closed, she said, without looking back, you did well on that presentation draft. I noticed that one line hit deeper than it should have. It wasn't the compliment itself. It was the way she said noticed. Like the word carried more weight than she meant to show. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. One message. From her. Don't forget to send me that file tomorrow. And get some rest. I should have left it there. A senior texting an intern, perfectly normal. Professional. Harmless. But I didn't. I typed back, you too. Then deleted it. Typed again. You don't seem like the type who rests much. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then hit send. The reply came faster than it should have. You're right. That was all. No emoji. No period. Just those two words. And for some reason, I couldn't sleep that night. The city outside felt too quiet, the air too heavy, my thoughts too loud. It was just a text, but somehow, it didn't feel that way anymore. The next week, she asked if I could help her prepare for a client meeting. It sounded routine, just slides, printouts, last-minute formatting. But the way she said it, quiet and deliberate, carried that same undercurrent as before. Her office looked different after hours, softer somehow. The blinds were half drawn, the city lights outside stretching long shadows across her desk. A faint jazz track played from her phone, low enough to blend with the hum of the air conditioning. Sorry to keep you late again, she said without looking up. Her hair was loose tonight, not the perfect knot she wore in the mornings. I noticed that before I even noticed the open spreadsheet waiting for me. It's fine, I said. You're the only one who still trusts me with formatting. That made her laugh, not loud, but real. It cracked something in the silence. For a moment, she looked younger. Not in the way people mean when they say it, just lighter. She turned back to her desk, rubbing her temple. These numbers stopped meaning anything about 3 hours ago. Want me to take a look? She hesitated, then slid the laptop toward me. Be my guest, miracle worker. I took it, our fingers brushing briefly. She didn't pull back right away. Neither did I. The air between us shifted, not tense, exactly, just aware. As I worked, she leaned against the edge of her desk, arms crossed loosely. Every few minutes, I'd feel her watching. Not the kind of watching you can ignore, the kind that carries a question neither person wants to ask. You ever get tired? I said after a while. She looked at me, surprised. Of what? Of always being the one who has to know what to do. A beat. Then another. Her eyes softened, not sad, just exposed. More than you think. Something in the way she said it made my stomach tighten. I wanted to ask what she meant, but I knew she wouldn't tell me. She wasn't built for confessions. Instead, I noticed the smallest things, her hand resting on the desk, nails neatly done but chipped at the edges. The way her thumb kept tracing the rim of her coffee mug, empty for an hour. The faint tremor in her voice when she finally said, "You shouldn't stay too long. People might talk." "I don't care if they do," I said quietly. She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of look that makes the room shrink, makes sound disappear. Her phone buzzed again. Same number. Same hesitation before she turned it face down without reading. "Good night, Daniel," she said softly. But her voice caught, just for a second, like something inside her didn't agree. I gathered my things, trying not to make it worse, but as I reached for the door, she said my name once more. Not to stop me, not to explain, just to say it. And somehow, that felt like more than anything she could have said. It was raining the night, it almost happened. The kind of rain that turns the city into static, everything blurred, everything humming just a little too close. We were supposed to finalize a campaign proposal before morning, but no one else had stayed. The office felt like another world, half-lit, empty, the windows fogged with streaks of water. She was sitting across from me, hair slightly damp, sleeves rolled up, a pen tapping absently against her notebook. "You don't have to stay," she said, without looking up. "I know. So why are you still here?" I didn't have an answer that made sense. The truth sat in my throat, because I don't know how to leave when you're here. But all I said was, "You'd missed the deadline." That earned a faint smile. "You always find a reason to sound responsible." She reached across the table, sliding a folder toward me. Our hands brushed barely. Still, it felt like contact that shouldn't have happened. Her skin was cold from the rain. Mine wasn't steady either. For a few minutes, the only sound was the rain against glass. Every time thunder rolled, she glanced at the window, then quickly looked away. "You okay?" I asked. She exhaled slowly. "I hate storms. Always have." The way she said it, soft, distracted, made it feel like more than weather. I wanted to ask why, but something in her posture warned me not to dig. Instead, I just nodded. "I'll stay until it passes." Her eyes lifted to mine, then, something flickering there. "You don't make things easy, you know that." "Neither do you." That stopped her. For a second, she looked like she wanted to laugh, or argue, or maybe just breathe. But she didn't do any of those things. She leaned back, crossing her arms, the shield she always built when she felt seen. The clock ticked past 10. She opened her phone, then froze. I caught a glimpse of a message on the screen before she turned it face down again. A man's name. No emoji. Just words she didn't want to read. "You should go," she said, voice quieter now. "It's late." "I told you," I said, keeping my tone even. "I'll stay until it's over." She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of look that stretches time. Something in her face shifted, the walls she wore beginning to crack. "Daniel," she started, then stopped. Lightning lit up the room for a heartbeat. In that flash, she looked different, not older, not younger, just human. I took a slow step closer. Not enough to cross anything, but close enough to feel the warmth between us. She didn't move away. Her breath hitched, barely audible. I could smell rain on her coat, perfume fading into something more raw. If I'd said her name, I think she would have answered. If I'd reached out, I think she would have let me. But the phone buzzed again, loud this time, insistent. She turned away. I should take this." I nodded, stepped back. The spell broke, or maybe it just paused. When I finally left, the rain had stopped, but I swear, the echo of that moment followed me all the way home. The silence between us had been building for weeks. It wasn't the kind that comes from disinterest, it was the kind that waits to be broken. The kind that hums underneath every conversation, every passing glance, every text that says nothing and everything at once. That night, she called me back to the office after hours. Need help finalizing something, she'd said. But when I arrived, her desk was clear. The documents stacked neatly. The lights dimmed. She was sitting by the window, coat draped over the back of her chair, a glass of untouched water beside her. I don't really need help, she said after a long moment. I figured. Her mouth curved slightly, but not into a smile. You're getting harder to lie to. I leaned against the doorframe, unsure what to do with my hands. You could try telling me the truth instead. She looked back out the window, the reflection of city lights flickering across her face. You wouldn't know what to do with it. Try me. That made her turn. Slowly, carefully, like she was afraid of what would happen if she moved too fast. I can't figure out what this is, she said. You and me. These late nights, these messages. Her voice broke on that word. Messages, as if it suddenly meant too much. It's not supposed to matter. But it does. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The air between us wasn't heavy. It was fragile, like one wrong word would shatter it completely. I took a step forward. Then why keep doing it? Because, she stopped, hands tightening around the edge of her chair. Because you look at me like I'm still someone worth noticing. The words hit harder than I expected. She didn't say them for effect. She said them like an accident, like something that had slipped through her guard before she could pull it back. She looked down, shaking her head. That's not fair to you. I don't care about fair. Yes, you do, she said, finally meeting my eyes. You're young. You still believe in fair. I wanted to argue, but the way she looked at me made it impossible, like she could already see the ending we were pretending didn't exist. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was the truest moment we'd ever shared. Just breathing. Just existing. Both knowing what the other was trying not to say. Outside, a siren wailed faintly in the distance. Inside, she pressed her palms together, staring at the floor. You make me forget myself, she whispered. I could have told her that she made me remember mine. But I didn't. Because somehow, that felt like the same thing, and saying it out loud would have broken something we could never rebuild. She finally looked up, eyes glassy, voice quiet. We can't keep pretending this is nothing. I nodded once slow. Then what is it? She didn't answer, just closed her eyes, exhaled, and said the kind of line that stays with you long after it's over. It's the one mistake I keep hoping you'll make first. I found out by accident. Or maybe it wasn't an accident at all. Maybe she wanted me to. It was late again, the kind of late that turns everything blurry and too quiet. She'd left her phone on the counter when she stepped out to take a call in the hallway. It buzzed once. A name flashed across the screen. Ethan. The message preview read only. Can't believe it's been a year. I didn't mean to look, but I did. And for the first time, I realized there were corners of her life I'd never be invited into. Entire rooms locked from the inside. When she came back, I pretended not to notice. She smiled, polite but tired, the kind of tired that doesn't come from work. I said something about the report we were finishing, and she said, You can go, if you want. It's late. But I didn't want to go. I wanted to understand what I couldn't ask. A silence stretched between us again, the kind we'd both started to mistake for comfort. Then she spoke, voice low, almost rehearsed. You ever lose someone before you were ready to? The question hung there, uninvited. I said, Not really. She nodded, like she expected that answer. You remind me of someone. He used to sit there too, she said, motioning toward the empty chair across from her. Always fixing things that weren't broken. Her tone wasn't nostalgic. It was careful, like she was walking across a frozen lake, afraid to hear it crack. I didn't say anything, just waited. She took a deep breath. His name was Ethan. He was younger too. Kind. Stubborn. He died in a car accident 2 summers ago, texting me on his way home. My chest tightened. She looked down at her hands, clasped too tightly. The last thing I said to him was, You don't have to check in every time you leave. And then he didn't come back. The room felt smaller suddenly, not because of the story, but because I could feel the weight she'd been carrying all this time, pressed into every pause, every half-smile she'd given me since the day we met. I didn't mean to remind you of him, I said quietly. She looked at me, and for the first time, there wasn't that guarded distance between us. Just honesty. You didn't. Not at first. The air shifted, subtle but unmistakable. What had once been a spark now carried something heavier. A ghost between us neither of us invited but couldn't ignore. She stood, walked over to the window, and whispered, "Sometimes I think he sent you, just to see if I'd ruin it all over again." I wanted to tell her she hadn't ruined anything. That maybe this, whatever this was, meant something different. But she turned before I could speak, eyes red but steady. "If I ever start treating you like a second chance, promise me you'll walk away." I swallowed hard. "And if I can't?" She smiled, soft, broken, almost fond. "Then it means I've failed twice." That night, I drove home in silence. Her voice still in my head, replaying on a loop. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one of us she was trying to save. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't even planned. It just happened, quietly, like most things between us did. She came by the workshop after hours, the place already dark except for the soft hum of the desk lamp. Rain was falling outside, the kind that blurs everything beyond the window. I was still pretending to work, flipping through papers I didn't need, trying not to think about her words from that night. "If I ever start treating you like a second chance." When the door creaked open, I didn't look up. I knew it was her from the sound of her steps, measured, soft, certain. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." She set her umbrella by the door. But I didn't want the day to end like that. Neither of us moved. The space between us felt heavy again, but different this time. Not filled with confusion, just quiet acceptance. She came closer, arms crossed, as if holding herself together. Her voice was steady but low. "I've been trying to decide what this is." I smiled faintly. "Have you figured it out?" "No," she said. "And maybe that's the problem." The rain outside filled the silence that followed. I watched the way her reflection trembled in the window glass, fractured by the streaks of water. She sighed. "You make me feel something I don't trust anymore." "I get it," I said. "You don't have to explain." She looked at me then, really looked. The kind of look that strips away every defense, every practiced distance. "I know," she said quietly. "That's what scares me." For a while, neither of us spoke. Just the rain, the faint ticking of the clock, and the small, unspoken truth sitting between us. I reached for the folder beside me, pretending to shift it, but my hand brushed against hers. She didn't pull away this time. Her fingers stayed there, still, cold from the rain. No words. No promises. Just that touch. "I don't want to hurt you," she whispered. "I don't think you could," I said. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that says you have no idea. Then she stepped closer, close enough that I could see the way the lamplight caught the strands of her wet hair, the curve of her mouth trembling as if she was holding back everything she shouldn't say. Her forehead came to rest against mine. Just that. No kiss, no movement. Just stillness. Breathing the same air, hearts stuttering in uneven rhythm. "I don't know where this goes," she said. "Neither do I." The rain softened outside. The hum of the lamp flickered. And for the first time, it didn't feel wrong. It just was. We stood there until the quiet settled deep enough to drown out the questions. No confessions. No fixing. No pretending. When she finally pulled back, her voice was barely a breath. "Maybe this doesn't need a name." And she was right. Because in that moment, for the first time since it began, nothing about it felt like a mistake. It's strange how things settle. I don't see her every day anymore. Not in the way I used to, not in the same spaces, under the same lights. And yet, in every quiet moment, when a coffee steams too slowly, when rain blurs the streets, she's still there. We don't talk much now, not about the things we once tiptoed around. But when we do, there's a calm I didn't expect. A gentle honesty, the kind that doesn't need to fill the air with explanations. I can hear her laugh now without feeling the tension coil in my chest. She smiles at me differently, not guarded, not apologetic, just present. I've changed too. I notice the little things I used to ignore, the texture of her hands when we shake, the warmth in her eyes when she remembers something fleeting, the quiet rhythm of someone who's lived through heartbreak but learned not to hide entirely. I've learned that noticing doesn't always mean acting, that love isn't always a rush or a claim. Sometimes it's patience, observation, respect. We never gave each other labels. We never made grand promises. But the space we shared, those stolen conversations, the moments between deadlines, the silences that spoke louder than any word, that became our truth. And it was enough. Some nights, I think about what could have been, about what we almost said, what we almost did. And I smile, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because the story wasn't in the endings we imagined. It was in the ways we touched each other's lives, softly, irreversibly. She taught me to see. I taught her to trust, in someone else, and in herself. And maybe that's what love really is. Not fireworks, not declarations, but the quiet moments where two people meet and leave each other slightly changed. I pass her favorite bookstore sometimes. I catch her silhouette through the window, standing with her hands on the counter, organizing books like she always does. And I smile, because I understand now. Some connections don't need to shout. They just exist. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?